When you want to create a class, make sure that you have first gone to settings and categories because you will need that information when creating a class. After you fill that out, you're going to go to the classes tab and you're going to click add new. Here, you're going to select the type of class, if it's a group class or a private class. Please note that when you're on this classes tab, the filter is automatically set for group class. So if at any point you want to know where your parties or private lessons are, make sure you come into this filter and change it to private class or all types. So we select if it's a group class or a private class, you'll type the name. You'll then select your genre, level, program, location, and default room from categories you've set up. Genre is going to be our overall program. Level is obviously the level of the class. Program is a sub-genre or another way to filter. So know that both genre and program are different ways that you can filter the class from the student end. Then your location. And lastly, your default room. Now, this means that this is what will show up when you're scheduling, but you can change that. If you have age restrictions, you would add the minimum age and the maximum age. In general, you want to put something in here. So for a lot of my classes, I have a minimum age of 18 and a maximum age, I say 100. And then you want to say the number of people that is the max in class. Again, this is going to be the default information that is put in when you're scheduling, but you can change it. Select your gender next, whether it's co-ed, female, or male. Remember that you can turn on the age and gender to make the system check before allowing registration under the global settings. So that's what it would check. Under payment method, you are going to select sales items. Billing schedule is something that Pole Studios don't use. Yes, PSM has the ability to do that. So if you don't do sales items and your program somehow runs on a different type of billing, please contact us. It is possible. But for 99% of Pole Studios, you're going to select sales items. Allow unpaid registration. By clicking this box, you can go into the global settings and decide which of your membership categories are able to register unpaid. This is something that is helpful if you have an auto-renewing monthly membership because they may be registering for a class outside of their normal payment period. Allow drop-in. This does not mean what you think it means. You're going to leave this unchecked. Allow drop-in is if you had a billing schedule set up. Allow drop-in is something that then they can also use sales items to be part of. So ignore that. Allow drop-in is not what you think. Ignore that. Minimum hours for early cancel. In PSM, you have the option of having early and late cancels and setting up auto charges for the late cancels. So in order to do that, we need to set the hour of when is the class allowed to be made up. That would be an early cancel versus when is it not allowed to be made up. And if it's never allowed to be made up, you would click early cancel disabled, meaning no matter when they cancel the class, it's going to be a late cancel. Otherwise, you can have different amounts, hours for different classes. So for example, in my program, we have 4 hours for our general program, but workshops are never allowed. And private lessons are 24 hours in advance. So you can change this based on class. Prerequisites. This is where you'll set up your prerequisites. If it's not required, you'd leave it there. If it's required, you'd select here, and then you can select which prerequisite is required. There are 2 different ways to do prerequisites. You can click add and then say the number of classes. So in this example, they are now required to take 4 Pole 101s and 4 Pole 102s before registering for the class that I'm creating. Otherwise, you can select both at the same time and say, now this person is required to take 4 aerial silks or 4 stretching classes or a combination. So they could take 1 silks and 3 stretching classes in order to register for this class. So that's how prerequisites are created. Our online client registration, open means everyone is able to see it. You can also have it be invite only. or closed, no one is able to see it. But one of my favorite is member categories. They have to be logged in, and then you can select which member categories are able to even see this class. So it's another way to limit who can see what is available. Then we have our instructors. For this, you are going to want to select the instructor that teaches the class most often. Or if you don't have that information, make it for one of the owners or general admins. This can be changed every single time that you schedule the class, but you need an overall person. Allow waitlist. This is if in general, this class is allowed to be waitlisted. Remember that in seasons, you can override the waitlist. So if I tick here and I say this class is allowed to be waitlisted, but then in the season I say it is not, the season will override this. Then if I go into the season and say, yes, this class is allowed to be waitlisted, if this is checked, it will. If it is not checked, it will not be. So this is at the class level. Is waitlisting allowed? Next, you select your color label here for what you want the class to appear as on your calendar. You can also have saved colors. So once I select a color once, I can have all classes of the same type, the same exact color. So just remember that you're able to customize this under the advanced tab. You can also set very specific things. But in general, I usually pick an initial color for each one, and then I go to the saved colors to make sure they all look the same. Then you'll type your class description and your class contract. If you want them to sign something to be able to enroll in this class, you can create it in Pages and add it here. I actually don't recommend using this. I would much rather have my contracts tied to sales items and money. So that is something to think about if you actually want the class contract here or if you want it as the sales item. So those are all of the different things to fill out when you're creating a class.